Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards, and synthesizers. And continuing with my Depeche Mode album review series, this is Violator, Part 7. Hello and welcome to the most in-depth Depeche Mode album review series ever conducted by an independent YouTuber, or so I'm told. If you've not seen parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 yet, in the words of Mrs. Norris, get out of here! Get out of here and go and watch parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and then come back to this video. Now, before we jump into the content of this video, there is no sponsor for this video, but I would like to once again bring your attention to the Depeche Mode Brian Griffin poster print collection. Now, as you know, this is a business which I've started with Brian Griffin, and it helps you, the Depeche Mode fan, to get your hands on one of these exclusive poster prints. You can go online to vaughngeorge.com and you can see the whole collection there. What makes this offer so unique is that all these poster prints are individually signed by Brian Griffin himself, as you can see. And it is a great way for you to get a piece of Depeche Mode history, but also to support this channel. Right, let's jump into today's video. The sweetest perfection to call my own. Wow. Right, so as we do on all these videos, we're going to talk generally about the song. I'm then going to analyze the chords using just the piano. And then at the end, I will do a piano improvisation so that you can hear what a beautiful song it is, even without all the synthesizers and technology. Oh, my darling. This is a stunning album. And yeah, I don't want to say what I've already said, but the track listing, the production, and everything about this album is just, dare I say, perfect, flawless. Call me a fanboy. But the Sweetest Perfection comes in really nicely, just as World in My Eyes ends. Remember, as World in My Eyes starts, it's really quirky. It's very Kraftwerkian, if there is such a word. But then, just the way the song announces itself, as the World in My Eyes fades away, it comes in. It slowly announces itself. And the way it comes in, it reminds me of, forgive me, a pressure cooker. When I was a kid, my mum used to have this big cauldron on the stove. She'd go, I think it's called a pressure cooker. I can't cook. I know nothing about kitchens, but anyway, forgive me. She had this big silver cauldron, and it had a red top, and it had this pressure cooker. And I used to sit and watch it, and used to go. Anyway, that reminds me of the beginning of Sweetest Perfection. Now, I don't know if it's a snare they're using or God knows what. This is what's so intriguing about Depeche Mode's albums is every time you hear a song from Depeche Mode, it's not often clear what sounds they, what the source is for the sounds they're using. That's another subject on its own. But Violator really is an album where very often I'm listening to the sounds and I'm going, okay, I know that's a synthesizer, but, what is the starting point for that song, or for that sound? Or, I know what that's, what is that sound? I know it's a synthesizer combined with a sampler, and there's elements of a human voice, but what is the process behind it? That is what I'm always intrigued by. But Sweetest Perfection starts off with that pressure cooker, and then it just comes in with a bum, 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. It's very unconventional the way it comes in, and the bass sound is it has a depth, but it also has a stereo feel to it. And what I love about that bass sound, it has an attack on the top. The bottom elements of that bass are very deep. Maybe it's a moog. Who knows? Who cares? But it has a sort of pronounced upper part of that bass, which sounds like an FM bass to me. FM, an FM bass, just to give it that pronouncing kind of, that pronounced sound. Now, we don't want to go too much into the sort of like the geeky sound of the record, because that could just make this episode even longer. And in fact, if you want more detail on this type of video, join my Patreon community, because I'm going to be doing a video on the Sweetest Perfection where, you know, we listen to it and I'll kind of speak through it in real time. But anyway, let's start with the structure, because like with all Depeche Mode songs, I've said it before and I will say it again, they are great songs, but they are not technology reliant. Of course, Depeche Mode were always a band, and one of the bands that kind of set the bar for, you know, technology in pop music, if you want to, well, pop records, whatever genre you want to call it. But they always had the edge on technology. But strip the technology away, behind that, my friends, are beautiful songs. So let's look at the structure of the Sweetest Perfection. Starting off on this chord. What key is this in? What key is this in, Vaughn? I've got no idea. I've never studied music, so I just know it starts there. The sweetest perfection to call my own. The slightest correction couldn't finally home. And the register he sings it in is so tender and broody. But we'll get to that later. Let's just run through the structure. He goes on to the second part, which is the same structure as the first part. The sweetest injection of body and mind. Sweetest injection of any kind. It then jumps to the E. I stop and I stare too much, to the A. Afraid that I care too much, and I hardly dare to touch. The fear that the spell may be broken. And at this part, there is a more intense vocal coming in, starting off with the sweetest perfection to call my own. It's broody, it's deep, it's intense. When it gets to this part, I stop and I stare too much, afraid that I care too much. An intensity comes in. But I hardly dare to touch, the fear that the spell may be broken. Is it for fear that the spell may be broken? Kill me, I got the words wrong. When I need a drug in me, and it brings out the thug in me, feel something tugging me, then I want the real thing, not tokens. Then it comes back into that same structure again, but this time he brings in a deep, dark baritone voice. So his upper register is the sweetest perfection. Underneath that, he's got this deep, dark baritone. The sweetest perfection to call my own. The slightest correction couldn't find me home. It's really deep, and Martin Gore is able to really sing really, really low and deep. In fact, when I went to watch him on his Counterfeit tour back in 2003 here in the Astoria in London, I was amazed how low he can sing. You know, he really, really can sing low. And we don't want to go off topic. I will do a video on Martin's voice if I haven't already, but I'll do another one. Martin Gore's voice is, I suppose, if you had to classify him in, you know, technically in choir terms, I think his natural voice is, he's probably a baritone, a high baritone, although he sings in a tenor register. His voice is very dynamic. It's got lots of colors. It's very agile, and there's a lot he can do with it. This song definitely illustrates that, and indeed the different registers and layers that he uses. In fact, here's something interesting, is that I didn't know this, and I'm sure a lot of you did not know this either, is that Dave Gahan actually provides the backing vocals for this song. Now, my mind was blown when I first heard that. In fact, I will leave a link in the video description below. And there is a video I found on YouTube where you can, you know, it's kind of there are like separate parts, and you can actually hear Dave Gahan's voice in the mix. Now, listening to it as a whole, you don't notice it, but now that I know that it is Dave Gahan singing, it seems so obvious to me. And that is at the end where touches so sweetly, reaches so deeply, touches so sweetly. Dave Gahan does those parts at the end, and Dave does have a beautiful, rich, dark baritone, and it's not often that, you know, we hear Dave providing backing vocals to Martin's songs. But anyway, let's remain on topic. So, section 2 of that song. The sweetest perfection to call my own. The slightest correction couldn't finally home. The sweetest injection of body and mind. Sweetest injection of any kind. So indeed, that part, the sweetest perfection to call my own, that is the chorus. So it starts off with that. And then once again, when we're talking about bands like Depeche Mode or Gary Newman, the structures are very unconventional. There's no sort of, it's the polar opposite to, let's say, Stock Aitken and Waterman, where it's bridge, chorus, no, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, you know. With Depeche Mode, it's completely different, and it's not often clear which part of the song is what, and it doesn't matter either. But the sweetest perfection to call my own, that part is, I suppose you could call the chorus. Right, so we are now at the things you'd expect to be having effect on me. Pass undetectedly, but everyone knows what has got me. It takes me completely, touches so sweetly, reaches so deeply. I know that nothing can stop me. There are so many different sort of nuances and kind of vocal elements that Martin uses to express this song. And especially when it comes to this part, the things you'd expect to be having effect on me. There's more intent. He dials up the intensity with every part. You know, it starts off broody, and it's pretty much broody all the way. But he brings in more intensity, and the production adds more intensity as it goes ahead. Oh, I'm getting gooseflesh. Fanboy alert, but this is just an incredible song, and very, very underrated. So let's analyze that part again. The things you'd expect to be having effect on me, pass undetectedly, but everyone knows what has got me. Then takes me completely, touches so sweetly, reaches so deeply. I know that nothing can stop me. And on the part where he goes, touches so sweetly, the word touches, it almost drops out. So you're kind of listening to it, and when he goes, touches, it kind of goes out and he comes back. Let's not go down the rabbit hole. When it gets to this part, I know that nothing can stop me. There is such intensity in that part. I know that nothing can stop me. You can just feel the intensity in that line. It then comes to this glorious epic bridge. Actually, let me layer it with a string just to sort of give it more emphasis. And then to sweetest perfection, an offer was made, an assorted collection, but I wouldn't trade. And then back into the sweetest perfection to call my own. And what I love about this part is when it after that bridge, when it comes back into the chorus, the Sweetest Perfection, it has that really freaky, discordant. It's not discordant, but it just sounds a little bit dissonant. It just sounds creepy. The Sweetest Perfection. And I love that guitar. I think it starts off in the left ear. The sweetest perfection to call my own. The side. You get the idea. I just love that part. What's not to love about this song? There is so much to love about that. And what becomes very prominent on this part is Martin's three-piece harmony. He's going, the sweetest perfection to call my own. The slightest correction couldn't finally home. But then below that he's got his low baritone. There may even be a Dave Gahan low baritone underneath there. I'm not sure. But that part is as follows. The sweetest perfection to call my own. The slightest correction couldn't finally home. You see, it's so deep that my voice is almost disappearing. But, so he's got his middle part, he's got that bass part, but then he also has a part which is an octave higher, which is his trademark Martin Gore head voice, which is sweetest perfection to call my own. The slightest correction couldn't finally home. And then the sweetest injection of body and mind. Sweetest injection of any kind. And I love of any kind. It's at that part, at that part, for some reason, that the higher vocal just really resonates and sounds really prominent. The sweetest infection of body and mind. Sweetest injection of any kind. And then we get this. This brings me on to Francios Kevorkian, who I read in an article somewhere. He said that when he mixed this track, there's loads of like mad tape loops and phasing sounds, and it's just incredible. I read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to elaborate. It wasn't. I don't know the challenge or the way he said it, but he wasn't sure how to end this song. You know, some songs on the record would fade out, but I believe that the end of this song, which just goes, it's got that strange ending, as I just demonstrated. Apparently the ending came about, it was just a complete fluke. It was a complete happy accident. And it's quite funny when you read that, because, I mean, how could anything on this album be anything but, you know, perfect and calculated and meticulously crafted? But the sweetest perfection, indeed, according to Francios Kevorkian, was the way it ended was like a happy accident, and the rest is history. On the subject of production, Kevin Paul, who used to be the chief mix engineer for Mute Records. Check out my previous videos and you will see an interview I did with Kevin Paul a few weeks ago, and we spoke about remixing Depeche Mode in 5.1 for the 2006 Remasters re-release series. And Kevin Paul will be in the studio with me very soon, and we will be talking about, you know, the remixing of Depeche Mode Violator, particularly in 5.1. But Kevin Paul went on to say that that song was just so mad, you know, with all these tape loops and all these mad phasing effects. And indeed, if you fast forward to the current day, Violator still, it hasn't aged. It's timeless. And, you know, there are so many records today that, you know, we're talking, 30 years ago? There are so many records today that, you know, Violator will just, it just stands up to anything. And it's not a competition, it's art. I don't like to compare records in that way, but just understand me that, and if you're a producer in this community, you will understand my absolute awe and admiration for this album in every single aspect of it. That mad instrumental part has this kind of string underneath it, but it also has these sequencing synthesizers, ding, digga, ding, ding, digga, ding, ding, digga, ding, ding. But what I love about the synthesizers in this record, and it's very difficult to explain this, but it sounds very earthy. It doesn't sound like a typical synthesizer, and what I mean by that is very often when you listen to electronic music, the synthesizer goes diggy, 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 and it just sounds so robotic, so sort of computerized. But this record, there is something, the way it's mixed and everything, and the sounds they use, the sounds sound like they come from the earth, like they're organic. Even though they're not organic, they're synthesized. And that is difficult for me to explain. It is something I feel, and it's hard for me to express and put it into words. But there is just an earthiness to these synthesized sounds. The melodic part on that mad instrumental part is something like this. Not exactly, but... up to something like this. Boom, boom, the sweetest perfection, and become it. What I love about the song, I love so much about the song, but the way it ends, the way it kind of, you can hear it. Okay, it's on its way out now. It becomes almost mantra-like. Once again, the synthesizers, the production, the everything. But Martin's lead vocal, the sweetest perfection to call my own, the slightest correction couldn't finally home. And then the deep baritone underneath it, the sweetest perfection, really, really low. And then, of course, we get the ad-libs. Nothing can stop me, takes me completely, touches so sweetly, reaches so deeply. Nothing can stop me, takes me completely, touches so sweetly, reaches so deeply. Of course, I will put a link in the description below, and then just listen. It's Dave Gahan going, nothing can stop me, takes me completely. He's doing those ad-lib vocals, and it just adds such color and richness to the track. Once again, we don't often hear Dave Gahan providing the backing vocals to Martin. It's usually Martin singing backing to Dave. But, man, this is what I love about this band. There were no rules. Of course, they had their rules, and their rules were to break the rules. But, and of course, by the time Mark Ellis Flood came onto this record, he had definitely pushed them into a direction that they'd not gone before. He had made them realize their potential that I believe they had not even tapped into. And had one of the other, if Dave Bascombe or Gareth Jones or one of those other fine producers had produced this, it would be different. It would be brilliant. I've got to be careful now because all these producers, Dave Bascombe, Gareth Jones, and anyone I've spoken to regarding this project, they all look up at this and just go, okay, Violator was the best, and they've all got such admiration and awe for Mark Ellis, and all of them have quite humbly said that they would never be able to do what he did. And anyway, there's a lot of praise to this album, but I just think that Mark Ellis, like every producer that they came across, it was a natural transition, and Mark Ellis was there at the right place at the right time. And one of his philosophies, or one of his putting them right, when Mark said, listen, man, your preconceived ideas are crap. You can use the same sound twice, and you should use guitars, and indeed they did. I mean, think of Personal Jesus, Enjoy the Silence. And indeed, if you listen to Violator as a whole, a lot of the sounds, there are sounds in certain songs that you will hear in other songs, and that was completely blasphemous in Depeche Mode philosophy, is that you never use the same sound twice, and every sound must be different. But in this record, you can actually hear I'm not going to go into that now, but you will hear certain sounds, very similar type sounds, if not maybe the same samples, slightly tweaked, used in different sounds. The new philosophy of it's okay to use the same sounds twice and using certain sounds across certain songs. It gives this album that sort of makes it feel like a sort of like a cohesive whole. It gives it like a sound like it's in a universe. And Mark Ellis, Flood. It is all of these things and more that make this a brilliant album. Right, so we've covered the structure and the vocal parts and a lot of other aspects. Spoke about some of the production. Let's now do what I always do on this channel, and I'm going to do the piano improvisation. Once again, the piano improvisation is not a note-for-note copy of the song. It's basically me taking all the different elements of the song and certain nuances and just sort of improvising it on the fly. So it's not a note-for-note tutorial. It's just absorbing the song and just flowing with it. and I can really get lost in these songs. I really love them. And that's today's video, my friends. Please let me know what you thought. Comments in the description below. Please hit the subscribe button if you've been watching this channel for a while and have not subscribed yet. Please subscribe, hit like, leave a comment, because it really does help me very much. As always, I want to thank you all for being here. Your support means everything to me. And anything you want to say in the comments below, let me know what you think of the Sweetest Perfection. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode, which will be part 8 of the Violator album review series. You take care of yourselves. Adios.